Well, Steve, it is good to see you. I've been wanting to have you on. We're going to have some fun today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I watch you and Bob go at it all the time on LinkedIn, and I'm a big fan of what you guys do. And just to be sitting in a chair opposite you from the legendary Bob Furness is pretty cool. You're pretty legendary yourself, but Bob's been my guy for a long time, so I'm really excited to be a guest on your show in Bob's stead for a minute.
Awesome. Let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Steve, I've got a new hero. There's a lady named Mary Cops. And apologies if I'm butchering her name. She charges $480 an hour to help people get their phobia around having phone calls. Most of her clients are Gen Z. But I go, why didn't I think about this? This woman is killing it. She was on the news. She's killing it. There's a survey that said that Gen Zs will send their parents to voicemails 57% of the time. So this isn't some stranger selling them something. This is their own parents. And before we make this a generational thing, it is intergenerational. I was preparing for this conversation with you. I was looking at articles as far back as 2007, writing the obituary of the telephone. Fast forward today, it is now 2024. Whenever you folks are listening to this, I got one question for you. You are with one of the organizations who's deep in the space of connecting customers and organizations together. Is the telephone dead? Can we move on? Is it dead? Is it over?
I am going to go against all logic here and say absolutely not dead.
Okay.
Not. Okay. The physical actual phone with the buttons and stuff, that might be on its very last breath, but the voice communication back and forth is not dead. And I am one of those people when, I have kids that I text with, and then when the phone rings, they don't answer. I'm like, did you throw your phone out the window all of a sudden? What was going on here? So I do that myself. Sometimes if you're not on my calendar and someone calls, I'm like, how dare you? That's so rude of you to actually call me. You're not on my calendar. So there's 100 reasons why the phone should be dead and buried and gone, because it's old. There's no history behind it. It's hard unless you're recording and putting away. But I believe that the phone, it's not so much the phone, it's the vehicle to get to another human being. And the human to human interaction never, ever goes away. I got a great story about that. So it's not so much about the telephone, but it's about human interaction. And I think it's very relevant to the telephone in some regard. I'm walking through LAX early in the morning. I'm foggy. I just woke up. I have a 6 a.m. flight, and there's a Starbucks open. And there's 20 people standing off to the side, and no one's in line. And I walk up. I'm like, are you guys in line? And they're like, no, we're ordering our drinks. They're all buried in their phones, ordering their drink. And there's no one in line. So I go, okay. I walk up to the lady. I said, I'll take a grande Pike's Place, $2.80. Here you go. Thank you. Put my credit card down, and I walk away. 30 seconds, in and out. And no one else on the other side has finished ordering. Wow. And I'm like, so again, the bottom line is meeting a customer, meeting a human being or solving a problem where the person wants to solve it in the vehicle which they want to solve. So I think voice and the phone gets reprioritized. I don't think it goes away. Right. It has moved down the stack for sure. But you can't replace the human. I can't imagine that could ever happen.
I think the data is on your side, by the way, because for all the obituary thing, I went and I looked at it, and the voice channel is actually growing. Not like some of the other digital channels are, but there are more voice conversations this year than last year, what have you. Now I happen to agree with you. It's not going anywhere. I do want to say we may have a problem if that's the case. Because dialing a 1-800 number is just painful. Universally so. I am surprised when I pick up the phone, call a 1-800 number, and I do not want to yell obscenities. I don't call 1-800 number in front of young children. I just can't, because almost every single one of them.
We have integrity. I swear.
You gotta put the children away when you're going to call customer service. So I think if what you're saying is voice will continue to grow, the other data that backs that up is, all the things I said about Gen Zs and not using the phone. They use
Mhm.
voice a lot. They use voice on Snapchat. They use voice on TikTok. They like voice. They do all of that. It's asynchronous, so they like voice. If the voice channel is going away, I think my question to you is, how the heck do we modernize this thing? What does that look like so that I can contact companies in front of children, knowing that this would be a pleasant experience?
Well, so again, without geeking out at all, it's really and truly about getting the right. It's about information, right? You're calling an 800 number to solve a problem. You're not calling to
Yeah.
talk and chat, right? You're calling an 800 number to solve a problem. So being able to gather the data about what the problem is, being able to go and search for the answer to that data and provide it back to bring it to a resolution. So that's the kind of the formula, if you will, of pretty much every single call.
Right.
So that said, if that can be handled and without talking to a human being, that is, I would say, I don't know what the percentages are. Generally, a preferred method to do it. I know for
Yeah.
me, if I don't have to talk to a human, I don't want to talk to a human. But if I'm
Sure.
stuck in an abyss and I can't get anywhere, I require a human. So it's really and truly about having the technology be so intelligent and so passive, because if you're in the technology and it's kind of a lumpy and clunky process, I'm zeroing out.
Well, describe it for me. So today, I want you to paint me a picture of, give me so let's just take a common one. I've lost my luggage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in here. I'm in the city. I don't have deal. Today, I pick up the phone. I call, press one, press two, da da da. Or even if it's voice, I'm yelling, customer. The thing can't
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
me. It's a frustrating. At this point, just get me a human. Get me a human. And then there's a 1 hour late, and the whole thing's just a disaster.
mm-hmm.
In the world you're describing for me, Steve, how does that interaction go?
So in a perfect world, this is how I see this interaction going: is you have a specific number for lost luggage, you call into it. They have, if you're a frequent flyer, or they have the data, they recognize you, and they call you by name, and they say, I see that you just took this flight here, and you're calling, and they know that you're calling a lost luggage number. Do you have your ticket number? Or they may even know your ticket number based on your phone
Right,
number, and they can go back and
right.
dig it out. Say, your luggage was, or missed the flight and is on a flight from Denver back to Chicago and will arrive at this point in time. Would you prefer if we gave you text message updates, blah, blah, blah? All of that stuff, all the information that you want to kind of be like, okay, they know where my stuff is. They've given me an idea of when I can expect it, and they're going to deliver it to me at my home address. And then they give you the option if you'd like to change where you'd like your luggage delivered, et cetera. And that should solve almost everything. If somebody has something specific that they need to talk about, then and only then do they zero out. But I think the most wonderful interaction for customer service is I call in. I don't need to speak to anybody. I don't have to explain myself multiple times. They know why I'm calling. They
Mm.
have the data and they have the answer, and it's already kind of predetermined that, and 97, 95% of those interactions get resolved through the data that is just provided to me. And I still have option to get to a person, and I'm not waiting 27 minutes to talk to somebody that doesn't even work for the airline or something like that. That's my perfect world.
Well, listen, if you're just listening, I've got Steve. Steve's been in this industry decades, and he's in the business of connecting customers with the companies and organizations they're trying to reach. Uh, the picture you just painted, sir, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be busy for a while, because that is so so far from the current
What
reality.
we have today.
it's not it's not it's not even funny. Let's get to know you a little bit. We're going to put your LinkedIn on there. So I like to
Okay.
ask fun questions. I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to answer it first, then ask you, give you time to think about it. The question is, what is a $50 and under purchase that changed and impacted your life positively or negatively? And mine, while you think about yours, mine, I suffer from, allergies and what have you. Mine is the neti pot. I remember the first time, I know, low tech, it's this kind of deal. I remember the first time I bought this thing. There's a lady on the box, and she's elegantly just pouring this thing in one nostril and just beautifully just coming out the other. I get home and I'm waterboarding myself. I'm drowning in my own snot.
I knew exactly where you're going with that.
Like this is horrible. I've gotten better at it, but there are times when all the allergy things don't work and I get really desperate. I use it. It is fantastic. So that would be my answer to that purchase. So what would be yours under $50 that made an impact in your life?
Well, I'm going to go in a completely separate direction and waterboarding through your nose. And I love to cook. So I'm going to food, right? So that's, I don't know, that's a really easy transition. I got a cast iron skillet at like an estate sale about 20 years ago, and I still have it to this day. And it's got, I mean, it's probably 40 years old, and it's got so many stories and so many things in it. And I cook by default. I cook everything I can in that, and it's changed the dynamic. Like anything from like scallops all the way to like duck and different types of cuisines, and it works. It's the universally best pan in the history of mankind, and it was like $34 at an estate sale. And I bought it when I was like just maybe, I was living on my own, and I'm like, I need to get a cast iron, and here I am, and I cook gourmet meals, and that's the first pan I use as often as I can. So
we've got another show, geek out on cooking. I too am an amateur, self-taught home chef wannabe, if you will. So we can geek out on that. You said scallops, and I got all kinds of hungry. But let me focus.
Yeah.
Let me focus.
I have an LLC on the side. I do pop-up fine dining dinners, like 10, 12-course dinners and stuff. So that's definitely something.
Oh wow! Yeah, you're probably.
I'm going on the other show too.
we're gonna do it. So getting back to this, so Steve, you spend a lot of time with contact center executives, so this game well. And all of us pick up the phone, we call 1-800 numbers, and we've talked about kind of the frustration. One of the things we said on a show about the airline specifically was that, many of us are stood behind the shoulder of the gate agent trying to help us, and we watch them. And one thing that always struck me is you go to the website, name the airline. Beautiful websites, clean UI, the whole thing's just fantastic. And then I'm standing over the shoulder of this lady trying to help me. She is pressing F1, F2. There's a green screen. She's arrowing. She has no fucking mouse. Like she is, like
you're teleported to 1987 instantly when you look at that.
Right. So my question to you is, as someone who is on the inside doing this on a daily basis, what explains this dichotomy of fantastic, beautiful tools, right, for the consumer who's trying to do the thing, and then 1980s for the poor contact center or customer service employee overall? What gives here, Steve?
Well, first and foremost, I'm getting on a plane in 2 days, and the way you just described that makes me very scared to get on a plane now. You just ruined it for me. I've been flying 100 flights a year for 15 years, and you just blew it, dude. So now, but that aside, what I believe, especially like the airline, I think government has some of these things. It's really and truly interoperability issues. It's customization of old systems that are so wound around an axle that to unwind it, to put it into a new environment, to take advantage of all that is next to impossible. Now, the GUI on the website, the leap from the agent screen to what we get to see, I don't know why they just don't do that on the other side, but there's got to be a lot, because we just see, we only get to access and do certain things. They have to do 100 things. We get to do 4 things. Of course. And I think that having access to all that, to build that into a GUI interface, the unwinding and rebuilding of that, I think it's just so ominous and overwhelming that people are just like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. But there is, and I don't know if is there an ROI? I mean, it takes the agent, an extra 10, 15 seconds at the gate. The plane's not going anywhere. So there's got to be a financial business driver. There has to be an interoperability and migration plan that doesn't scare the daylights out of the airline executives. And how many flights get delayed, canceled, or stay in the air, for goodness sakes.
Right.
Since you've now screwed my brain up.
This is why I want to talk to you. You are a pragmatist, and I love that. I'll be remiss though if we didn't talk about your business. You are an executive for what we call Ccas, contact center as a service, but basically you're providing technologies for phone, digital, all that to organizations trying to talk to customers like all of us. Mm-hmm. I want to get your take on this confusing world we live in, meaning everyone just says we are AI this. Everyone just says we've got AI, we can do this. Everyone says digital. Everyone says the same thing. No offense to your marketing department. I go in and I look through all of the deals. I can't tell what is what. I feel like it's just all the same. So my question here is, for the people who are trying to deliver us good customer service, I work with them too. Yeah. I feel for them because it's confusing. Like, whether it's just a confusing world when everyone's like, I'm AI, I'm digital, I'm all of this. And like, how do they navigate that? So as someone who spends your day trying to help customer service practitioners, I know on this show we have all this criticism. I have nothing but respect for those folks, and I've been on that side. They're working really, really hard. Yep. How do you talk to your clients who are just like, Steve, I'm confused. How do I get from point A to point B if everything kind of looks and sounds the same?
Sure. Well, first, generally, I'll talk to them about just kind of definition of the landscape and looking at things like, I want to incorporate AI. That's like going into a bar and say, give me alcohol. Like, what in the world? What in the world? There's a billion choices, so like, let's start there. Let's define I don't think you need to spend so much time defining what AI is. Spend all your time defining outcomes. What are you trying to get to? Where are you trying to go? Right. And if you start with the answer and you work your way backwards, like an N- strategy. So have the answer and work your way backwards to figuring it out. And so many people, like my business, we sell technology and our sellers are out there selling. We have a toolkit and we're looking for people that have problems that this toolkit can solve those problems. What winds up the people and the companies that are successful in helping, contact center executives and managers and so forth solve the customer experience problem is, let's sit and talk about what works, what doesn't work, and what does ideal sound like. The scenario I played out with you about your lost luggage. Okay, if that's what you want to get to, and then we back into what kind of technology exists and look back to see what we can get to. And you don't have to solve the problem, but then you create kind of a journey map, and you walk through. And like the old adage, the consulting adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You can't just go and put in AI and then look, AI solved all my problems. It doesn't work that way. One, you got to figure out what AI do you need. And then the other thing too, at a macro level, the AI industry is just, if you go back and look at the cloud industry, like cloud in general, same exact story, right? I want to move to the cloud. Right. What does that mean? It could mean a billion different things. I want to move to AI, same thing. So over time, the cloud is kind of consolidated into being a more defined and quantifiable benefit value kind of a situation. AI will get there as well, but it's not going to get there. People buying AI because of the cool factor, because it solves this one.
Your CEO says, "Hey, are we doing the AI thing?" No, I'm not kidding. Like every CEO is running around, not paying every birth, but every CEO is like, "What is our AI strategy?" And what ends up happening is if you're a CEO or a C-suite and you're not articulating what Steve just said is, how can AI help us, or can AI? What you're going to end up with is check the box. Oh, yeah, we got the AI. We AI and everything.
Yeah, right. AI. How about this? You don't need an AI strategy. I think that's a dumb term. Let's just go crazy and say you don't need an AI strategy. You need to solve business problems. And what do you need to do to solve the problem? AI is incorporated into solving this problem. You have a customer experience strategy. AI is do you have a laptop strategy? It's a tool. You don't have a laptop strategy at company. You pick a laptop and you give them to everybody in the company. It's
Steve,
Yeah.
that is going to be the money quote from for the show. That is brilliant. I love because everyone thinks they need one. I can't wait for folks to hear and react to that.
Yeah,
I have a
it's going to
couple
be.
more places I
Go
want to
ahead.
go with you.
Sure.
As for those of you who listen, we've got a Moss Talks under that, and I have this debate show that I do, and I bring Bob Furness, which Steve and I happen to know. Both of
Yeah.
us are friends with Bob Furness. I want to see if you're going to end up on the right side of this issue. So I'm going to put you on the spot here,
Okay.
which is I have this debate about average handle time or speed in general. This is this concept that if you're a service worker, there is a
Mhm.
clock, whether you're the McDonald's drive-through and the clock says you need to make these burgers in 2 minutes, what have you. And if you're in a contact center, the world Steve and I know very well, there is this sort of idea you need to go there. Well, I think the Pollyannish people, like our good friend Bob Furness, comes out and says,
He can defend himself.
comes out here and says, we do not need handle time anymore. We do not need any speed. We should just eliminate it and we should move on. I think he is wrong. And Steve, no pressure. I think you're going to agree with me. What say you?
Well, first of all, I got my friend Bob, who's not on here, who's going to yell at me if I don't side with him, and I have you on here, who's already put the gauntlet down. All right, so this is what I believe, and you got to hear me out. I'm going to take about 15 seconds to answer a one sentence question. It matters. Handle time matters, but the measurement isn't what it shouldn't be a driver, and the reason is when you have a call handle time measurement, people are trying to get you off the phone, and their goal is to hang up, whether it's resolved or not. Average handle time of resolved issues is
like
the
that.
measurement, right? So solve the problem. If you can solve the problem in a short period of time, let's measure that. Getting them off the phone, I've been hung up on by like I've gone a Moss on some people. I've gone for the kids and blah blah blah, and I've gotten hung up on. So that's a cut down their average hold time. I am livid. That doesn't count.
Right.
Average hold time or average call time of resolved issues. That's the metric.
That's beautiful. You've brought two things I've never heard of before. This is why we do this show.
Great.
You don't need an AI strategy, and this whole instead of average handle time of anything you handled, what about average handle time of actually resolved issues? That's fantastic. I've got one more place I want to go, and we'll call it, which is what is the best service experience that has restored your faith in our business over the last 12, 18 months? And I ask this because I'm trying to be intentional in 2024 of calling out like positive things that happen. And I'll share mine as you think about about yours. I had one of these recall things with my vehicle, right? Like airbags, recall, whatnot. And I didn't want to do it because I thought it would be a giant pain. To my pleasant surprise, when I got enough things, they threatened me and my family would die in a fiery car crash if I didn't do the thing. I was like, all right, fine, let me do this. So to my pleasant surprise, I'm thinking I got a block time on my calendar and all of that. They're like, sir, if you will drive the car here, we will take you back home. And when the car is ready, we will bring the car to your home. You don't even have to leave. So the only time investment is come to there. I get there. I, do the paperwork. I sit in the lobby for about 30 seconds. There's a beautiful vehicle waiting for me. It takes me to my home. I'm getting text messages as things are happening that the car is now finished. Is it okay to bring my car back, or would I want to pick it up? All this via SMS. I make my choices. My vehicle is back in my driveway, and it by far, on my 5 decades on this earth, was the most pleasant mechanic experience I have ever had. What recently has made you like, oh my, okay, we can get this right?
It's funny when my first place I went to, and then you said you would start was an experience I had at a dealer, at an auto dealer. It's the same exact thing. I just went in to get. So my son lives down in St. Louis. I drove down to visit with him, and I was there for a few days. And he was went to work, so I was by myself. So I like, you know what? I got to get my car oil change and tires rotated and all that stuff. So I'm just gonna go to the dealer down here because I have time.
Right.
And the guy, so again, I'm going to tell a different story, but the guy was incredibly attentive, went through everything. He knew I was from Chicago. He loved Chicago. We sat and talked like you and I are talking, like we've known each other for
Right.
years, and had the
Awesome.
greatest time. And he's like, you know what? He's like, I know you got to get back. Your son is in town. Let me go prioritize. And he just went back and just took care of everything and put that all through. So I'm going to put that to the side just to parallel that. But I have another experience that I'm gonna go to food, and it's a great experience. I went to a fine dining restaurant. It was actually in London, outside of London, many years ago, and the experience was a multiple course dinner. And they called you on the phone 30 days before. You had to make reservations for several months in advance, and they asked you all kinds of questions. They sent you a document, talk about
Oh, wow.
allergies, some favorite experiences that you've had, and they have it was probably 20 questions for each of the diners. And I'm like, this is why do they want you to know all this stuff? When we get there, they sit down, they knew all of our names. They had our pictures, everything. So they knew who we were. Sat us, Steve, have a seat right here, and so on. Bottom line is the entire dinner, they curated the dinner around the answers to all those questions. Like one of the things, what's your favorite candy growing up? And I thought, all right, I'm going to stump them. So those little candies that there was a paper that had the little dots on them that you
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
pull them
Yeah.
off and eat them, stuff like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, I had those when I was like in the 70s and stuff. And I'm like, there's no way, we're in London. They're never going to heard of this stuff. They made the exact replica of the candy with edible paper. And it was they researched it. They figured it out, and you could eat the whole
Get
damn
out
thing.
of Get out
One
of here.
that was with us loved the Snickers bar. They made homemade Snickers bar. The bottom line is they asked what favorite song, and they had a little thing. Then they played music during one of the courses in like an elevator version of, whatever it was. And, but curated a meal the entire time. And one of the guys I was with was an actual chef, and they invited us back into the kitchen. We met the executive chef, who's
Right.
famous.
Right.
It was just, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I was just saying that I thought, for the money, it was a lot of money to do it. But that
Right.
dining experience to this day is that there's never been a better dining experience I've ever had, because they really personalized it, took into account, we flew in all the way from Chicago all the way to London to have a meal. And they took it very seriously, and they went above and beyond to deliver an experience that I talk about here. I think it's 10, 12 years ago, and I'm talking to you
Wow.
and all these other people about that dining experience, because of the caring and the attention to detail that they took, aside from the fact that the food was outrageously delicious, but the experience was far beyond anything I've ever experienced in my life.
That's awesome. I'm going to leave you with this one last question and thought,
Yep.
which is, as you look ahead, I'm not going to ask you to make predictions around this, but as you look ahead, what gives you optimism about what is possible for us to deliver for customers over the next several months?
Sure. Well, I think we had a little slowdown in 23 from a macroeconomic level. So the adoption of cloud technology, or particularly around Ccas and customer experience, combined with kind of I would say the original and initial distraction of AI. Let's scramble, drop everything. Let's put our AI strategy in place. So now I think things have settled down. I think the economy is kind of calming a little bit. I would think we're going to see a more dramatic uptick in cloud conversion from on-premise to the cloud, which means it opens the door to all those things. AI on-premise technology, it's not a thing. So step one is get your platform converted and then start building things out. So with the acceleration of that foundation of moving from on-premise to cloud will accelerate thereby, and the fog of what is AI will start to kind of wind down. And consultancies and companies that get it are going to go out and start talking about, what are you trying to solve for? What does the ultimate experience look like? And work your way backwards and plug in the right technology. So I think we're going to see an acceleration in 24. 24, 20, and 25 are going to be, I think, really big years. 25 will be the biggest year in AI adoption, in my opinion, because we're still figuring out, all the
Right.
toys and what we're going to do with it.
Awesome. Steve, it was awesome having you on. I look forward to having you back on the show. You dropped a lot of nuggets, and I can't wait for folks to listen to this. Thank you so much for coming on.
It was such a pleasure. Great to see you.
Thank you. You've been listening to an Amos Talks production.